Welcome to the Legion Outriders podcast.
You've got a lot of guts coming here.
Your source for the latest Legion news, opinion, and analysis.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
And now, here's your hosts.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
John Archiquette.
Will somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way?
Matt Turner.
I'm not afraid.
And Joshua Gray.
You will be.
You're listening to the Legion Outriders podcast. It's John, Josh, and Matt here, ready to kick off our second episode. What's going on, guys?
John, put that shock collar away.
No.
That shock collar away. I don't want to see it, man.
If it's not the shock collar, it's going to be the restraining bolt. So
not that either.
Yeah.
So we've had some pretty good reception from a lot of our fans out there. And first of all, I'm shocked at how well received everything's been so far. It seems like we've got a lot of downloads from all over the world.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is the point where you just got to say thank you.
Yes.
I mean, thanks to, we wouldn't be doing this if we released this and there was kind of like, it's all right, I guess. Then it's like, well, okay, we'll try and make it better. But, I got to say, the reaction that I've seen on our Facebook page and a bunch of other places is overwhelmingly positive. So thank you. We appreciate all of your feedback. We'll definitely take that to heart and make some adjustments. We're still feeling it out. So thanks for being with us, and we hope you enjoy episode number 2. Certainly.
Yeah. No, not everybody can attain these levels of adequacy. So
we put the media in mediocrity.
Yeah.
But I think it speaks a lot too to how well the hype for Legion's going, because we're seeing people downloading not only just from this area or from the United States. We're seeing non-English speaking countries. We got several downloads in Sweden. We've got a big community in France and Germany. So
and Ireland.
Yeah, and Ireland too. But they speak English there for the most part.
No.
Yeah, that is a very important distinction to make. Yes, we understand you're Irish, not English. We get it.
Actually, that's an achievement in itself.
Depending on which part of Ireland, I guess.
You have the Six Nations Cup going on right now, and if you're actually pulling Irish and, anybody in the British Islands away from watching the Six Nation Cup to actually listen to us for an hour, that's pretty impressive.
Is that a rugby reference?
It's rugby.
Okay, yeah, my eyes started glazing over. It's either rugby or like hurling, one of the two. I'm not sure, but
both are awesome sports.
Yes, they are.
But yeah, to take an hour out of your rugby time to listen to our podcast, we greatly appreciate that. So we got a lot of stuff. We were supposed to wait, 2 weeks for our next podcast, but I think all three of us were in agreement that we got a lot of things to talk about.
There's so much stuff now.
We can't wait another week.
Yeah, I mean, and you run the risk if, when you want to be current. So the rules dropped on Monday. If we wait until next week, middle of next week to release an episode, you're not really striking while the iron's hot on that.
Wait, we have rules now?
Wait, rules? No rules. Just right.
Well, I think it's, timeliness is next to godliness, right?
Is that what that is?
Or cleanliness.
Or something like that.
You should really look into the cleanliness aspect.
Oh, we got so much stuff to talk about this week. We've got some hobby talk. We've got some discussion about some of the things that are going on in the, we talked about the positive feedback that we've gotten, but, man, some of these Legion fans out there are they're vitriolic, to say the least.
I tell you what, there were some very strong reactions out there in the community to some of the rules interpretations and some of the wordings on some things. So, yeah, we'll definitely chat about that.
And of course, some of those rule discussions that are raising these controversies. We're gonna pour through the rule book. We got the Learn to Play guide, which of course got released over the past week. Was it Monday or Tuesday? Monday. So we've got all the things to talk about through that. And we actually have some text that we can actually look over. Open rules test or open book test for it. So going into the hobby talk, we've got just full excitement going on right now for getting some actual terrain on the board, and I've been tackling some Tupperware projects that I've gotten.
You posted some pictures up, right?
Yeah, we got a couple pictures up there. We're gonna put together a little step-by-step tutorial basically on how to turn a $4 box of Tupperware from Target into some usable terrain for Tatooine bases or Hoth, wherever you want to do. But that's just for the terrain building. Of course, what everyone really wants to get into, I think, is putting the models together. And Josh, you've been testing out a couple of your paint schemes, right?
Yeah, I mean, traditionally I've always done, I've never played the more realistic war games like Bolt Action and stuff like that, so I don't have to worry about historical paint schemes. I can go and do something that's a little bit more creative, a little bit more to my own personality. So every time, in X-Wing, I've always repainted everything and worked with a kind of a base black palette with kind of a purple, gray, silver, green look to it for all of the trim and accent colors. So, of course, the first thing I wanted to do, I knew I didn't want to do the standard, what everybody else is going to do, standard Stormtroopers. So I started to look and go, how am I going to make this happen? So I got a hold of some Imperial Assault Stormtroopers.
You're like, hey, I need to desecrate these models.
Exactly, right? Because the nice thing about Stormtroopers, they don't care about tactical. Glossy white armor is not tactical in any environment that you're going to be in, except maybe snow.
It's like Cloud City.
Yeah, maybe, sure there. But it's like you're running around Endor in gleaming white armor. It's like that's not very tactical.
Uniforms are terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the thing for the Empire. It's like we don't need to hide.
No,
we're just going to steamroll you. So I grabbed a can of my old trusty standby Chaos Black and shot those 3 Imperial Assault minis, and I painted one in gray base to maybe see how that looked. But then the 2 black ones that I had, I kind of did kind of a, took the shoulder pauldrons and painted those purple and did some trim work purple and kind of made it like a standard military kind of look. But the other one, and the one that, there's pictures of both of these ones up on our Facebook group. The other one I did was kind of more of a slash digital camo kind of look. It's not the best. It was just kind of a Sunday proof of concept kind of thing. Like, okay, can I do this? And I was pretty happy with the results. And so I'm gonna get some new brushes and kind of refine that a little bit more as we wait for release, and I think that's what I'm gonna go. And then for the vehicles, I'm gonna go with what's called a splinter camo. If you haven't seen some of like the jets, fighter jets that are out there that are in that splinter, it's a very geometric 3-color scheme that kind of breaks everything up.
So you can use that gray, purple, pink kind of palette that you're doing.
Yeah. So it's going to be like for the ATST, it's going to be a black base with a purple and gray kind of geometric shapes, triangles and dodecahedrons or whatever.
Pink hearts. Yep.
Yeah. That exactly. Yes, sir. So that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm working on.
So you're kind of taking the concept from the U.S. Navy, taking a completely nonsensical camouflage pattern that happens to look cool.
Sure, yeah, whatever.
But I saw the pictures that you did, and I have to say I'm pretty impressed. I like the different differentiation from what you'd expect from your standard Stormtroopers.
And if there's anybody out there that's looking to do the normal, the kind of the standard Stormtrooper, standard Rebel Trooper look, Sarastro's painting. He's a painter. Got a channel on YouTube. Does a lot of Imperial Assault. Does a lot of I think he does a lot of 40K stuff. Mm-hmm. He started dropping his. He's already done his Alliance. His Rebels, he started dropping all of his Imperials today. So each tutorial is about 20 minutes long. I watch it, and it's like watching black magic and voodoo. I don't really understand how he does that, but he waves a brush around and gets like perfection. So I'm very impressed. But I would definitely give that channel a check if you're looking at doing something more standard.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those videos he's done, and they're outstanding.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
I also I want to point out that I just heard Josh call them the Rebel Alliance, not terrorists.
Not terrorists.
Wow.
Every once in a while, you've got to you got to keep it on the down low.
I feel like he's growing up right before our eyes.
Rebel
You're
scum.
Expanding as a person, or you couldn't be more proud.
I'm emerging.
So Matt, what kind of Star Wars news we got coming out lately?
Oh boy, a little bit. We're ramping up to the series finale for Rebels. The most recent 2 episodes aired on Monday, and the last 3 will be coming out this Friday, March 5th. So very, very bittersweet, but I still haven't seen the most recent 2, but I've heard really good stuff.
No spoilers.
Yeah, no spoilers,
Definitely not.
Please.
Single tier. It's ending.
Also, it seems that Mr. Mark Hamill himself is getting a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. That they're having a ceremony March 8th. So I think it's to canonize his role as Cockknocker and Jay and Silent Bob.
Funny you should ask that.
Yeah. And then apparently there was a big patch for Star Wars Battlefront 2 introducing some new maps, new game modes, and jetpacks everywhere. So if you play that, apparently there's some fun going on there.
Is that free, or is that going to cost, like an arm and a leg and your firstborn child?
Man. Those EA guys. I don't know. I actually haven't updated in a while. I haven't played it, but I think this is a free one because they're still pandering. I mean, the rumor mill is still that Disney might be shopping around that Star Wars license to other publishers. So
really?
I think EA is doing probably the best they can to re-ingratiate themselves. I mean, so this is all just rumors. We're not like reporting this as hard fact, but
could you imagine how cool it would be if Bethesda got a hold of that license and did like a Fallout Star Wars kind of game?
I'm sure lots of heart,
or Skyrim.
Yeah,
I would actually probably play that.
I'm looking forward to picking flowers in the Star Wars universe.
But I think the ones I heard were Activision was in there and Ubisoft. So
some big players.
Yeah, but we'll see. But that's kind of the Star Wars news right now.
Well, I know when that game came out, there was a lot of community backlash and everything at EA. And,
I didn't hear anything about that.
I sometimes I just don't understand, what's with so many angry people on the internet. And then
would people go to the internet just to be outraged about something?
2018, you'd think that everyone would be past that, but no, I guess not. That seems to be everyone's forum for venting. But apparently, Star Wars Legion's kind of fallen victim to that too lately, huh?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, the rules just came out this week, so people are getting for the first time to go through and look through, see if their expectations are meeting with what's coming out in print, and what in specific has been sparking the most?
So the biggest thing that I saw when I was looking on there's a Facebook group for Star Wars Legion. It's got about 4,500 people on it, so it's a fairly sizable group, and you get that many people online in the same place talking about something. There's going to be a lot of strong opinions, and nobody ever wants to hear the other, everyone wants to hear the other viewpoint. But the true line of sight rule was the one thing that was really generating a lot of gnashing of teeth on there. There were some people that like the model volume. There's some people that like true line of sight. They're like, oh yeah, that's how this game does it, or that's how War Machines does it, or but nobody would ever come to a consensus. And within about 4 or 5 hours, it just devolved into meme wars and you're a moron and. It was really discouraging.
Yeah, obviously, because the game's not even out yet. Why don't we take a step back, though, and let's take a look at basically what they're talking about. We'll assume John has no idea what we're talking about because he probably doesn't.
Good assumption.
So true line of sight basically means, and as it's laid out in the rule book, you take the center point of the model, the top point there, and then if you want to, you can kind of get an eye point of view down there, look over it, and seeing what that model can actually see on the board, and then that's what he can attack. Whereas with the volumetric, the standardized volume sized, there's War Machine does this. Basically, if you've got a medium-sized base, it's good for like 2 inches or something like that off the base, including the entire base size. Large bases are 5 inches. I'm just making these numbers up, etc. So you have more of a standardized. So there's pros and cons for both systems, I think.
Well, I think part of the reason you're seeing so many, conversations, to put it lightly, between, all these Star Wars Legion players is because we're coming from different communities. You've got some people who come strictly from X-Wing. You've got a lot of people who come from 40K. But then you've got, War Machine, Bolt Action, Infinity, and every one of these uses a different system, a different mechanic in order to measure the line of sight. And I think you're starting to see some people who are saying, well, this was better in this, and this worked better in this, but we don't know how it's going to work.
People are bringing a lot of baggage with them to this discussion.
See, and I don't necessarily even mind that because everybody has their preferences. But, like you said, everybody's coming from a different community. But, and this is going to kind of sound, very rah-rah, but we're now the Legion community. Mm-hmm. We can't be petty like this towards each other because, you look at the Facebook group and like I said, hey, 4,500 is a fair amount of people, but it ain't that much, and there's still people who are still getting on board and there's still people who are saying, oh, the rules are out. Oh, hey, I actually like this. Hey, let's find this Facebook. Oh, geez. No. I'm going to go back to 40K. No thanks, because it's like not like 40K is like the bastion of civility all the time.
Oh
right?
god, if you ever walk into a forum between 40K and 30K.
Yeah. But if I'm a new player and maybe I'm looking for something to be, a game that I can get on the ground floor and build that sense of community, and we're all in this together, and then all I see is that everybody's fangs out at each other. It's like, I think we can be a lot better than that. Let's get some games on the board before we start tearing into each other.
And to be fair, it's probably just a very small percentage of those people that are, venting their frustration in a very maybe negative manner. But there were some reasonable, thought-out posts as well. This is, what I experienced, and I think this works well. The people that are like, well, I'm going to absolutely do everything I can to modify my guys so they can abuse the rules as they are written right now. Before we even have like a solid tournament doc or anything like that saying, okay, well, probably going to be you can't modify past the poses that are on there, something like that. They have very similar rules for X-Wing. You can't modify the bases, you can't do anything that might affect how they're actually played in the game. With arcs of fire and movement pegs and all that, I don't think they're going to let you do too much to affect them.
And here's the point where you got to start considering bringing out the restraining bolts and the shot collar.
Oh no, okay.
If that's your reaction. If your reaction is to go, well, I'm going to look at the rules and cheese it as much as I can, I'm going to make all my guys prone, and I'm just going to do whatever I want, I'm going to modify my guys so I can circumvent all this, there's no room for that. You're pushing plastic toys across the table, okay? I love to win more than anybody else. But if that's your reaction, get over yourself, man. I don't think there's any room for that. Like we would say in X-Wing, fly better.
Yeah. No, I think in those kind of people, it doesn't matter what system they're on. They're going to find the most abusive list build, interaction of rules, modifying for bonus. They're going to find a way to do it anyways, and there's not a lot you can do about it other than, oh, this guy's got a reputation for doing this. Maybe I don't want to play him. If it's in a tournament, judges are going to find you out pretty quick. So,
but from a hobbyist standpoint, it kind of changes the way I want to do things as well, because in 40K, one of the things I like to use to model my figures, I like using foam board, corkboard. Like corkboard is really easy to kind of break apart and make it look like rocks. So if you put a layer of corkboard down on top of the plastic base, put your model on top of it, you can kind of create a cool scenic look. But for a game like this, that's going to change things.
Well, I think there's I think there's two ways to go at that. I think there's minor mods for cosmetic purposes.
Sure.
Sure, I get that. But like when you're talking about doing a modification that is solely intended to give you a competitive advantage, that's cheese to me.
Yeah. No, adding a layer of rocks to your base probably isn't going to affect that 50% rule for getting cover from barricades and things like that. I can't imagine that would do that, or
But until we see some hard evidence or some document from FFG stating you cannot modify your base height at all, I'm not going to do it.
Hopefully they'll be pretty quick on that. But we're also, so speaking of the baggage coming from other games like 40K, where you've got flags and all sorts of giant models that, I see that sticking out from behind that building, so I'm going to shoot that. Didn't they come out and say that those kind of non-essential pieces aren't legal targets? So I would expect something similar. Not that we have anything even remotely close to that announced for Legion yet.
Well, it seems like Legion is kind of trying to move into a better sense of realism than what we saw from 40K, especially 8th edition 40K, where they've kind of eschewed realism for having a quicker playing, beginner-friendly game. Mm-hmm. Which, that's an entire debate into itself that I wouldn't even want to get into. But it seems like they are trying to be fairly realistic. So, we should take it upon ourselves as gamers to not try to break the system.
And kind of what you were talking about, Matt, there's not a whole lot of modifications you can add to give yourself a competitive advantage.
Right.
But hey, it's a line of sight game. Line of sight's measured from the top of the head. So if you were going to take a really big peaky commissar hat and put it on your Darth Vader, maybe. So it looks like maybe I'm not going to be doing that after all.
Please do that so I can shoot your freaking head off. That would be great.
But that's the thing. Like I will take that knowing that, hey, maybe that makes me taller and Sith Lords don't care. I would do that because it gives me a tactical disadvantage too. And I don't know if that would, but I'm not doing it. I'm doing it for fun. I'm not doing it for a competitive advantage. Yeah. Like some guys are talking about modifying all of their guys so they're laying prone on the ground. It's like, meh. And yeah, there's some trade-off with that. You can't, I can't see you, but you can't see me. You conversely turns into I can't shoot you, you can't shoot me. But I just think that's a really petty way to look at a rules release that's been out for 12 hours, and that's the reaction that you have to it.
Yeah, I think that just basically falls along the lines of, are you a win-at-all-cost gamer? Are you a casual gamer who just wants to have fun? That's where it really kind of breaks down on those lines.
Yeah,
I'm competitive, but I fully subscribe to X-Wing's fly casual mantra. Winning it at everything. And again, it's a game where you're pushing space wizards with laser swords around. Come on,
I just want to play with my toys and have fun.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I think with having a three-dimensional game, it changes it up from X-Wing, because X-Wing, in being a two-dimensional game, you're not really changing the elevation. It's not going to make a huge difference. But
you can put your Falcon on 15 pegs. It's not going to really matter at all.
Yeah.
But the part that does matter, you're not allowed to modify at all.
Yeah.
Period. Dot.
And I think we'll have those kind of blanket statements from Fantasy Flight pretty soon here.
Yeah.
So don't start chopping up your stormtroopers to try to get them to, belly crawl across the field.
And I'm sure FFG being FFG, they're going to come out with alternate sculpts of stormtroopers, so
sure
not everybody's the same.
Yeah.
Cha-ching.
So talking about some of the other rules that are coming out, we brushed on the true line of sight. What are we looking at, other things that perhaps we assumed going into, the little bit of rules releases that were, put out piecemeal, things that we know now are a little bit different. So I know one thing that we talked about a little bit was the displacement. Now, that was one thing that kind of caused some controversy with the speeder bikes and the T-47.
Yeah, and I think they might have a misunderstanding. We actually just looking up the rules for this. The only time that repulsor vehicles can displace is during their compulsory move. Sure, they might have a fast one, but the fact that the defender gets to replace the guys that got displaced in cohesion, I don't know how it would be really tough, I think, to use it for a tactical advantage to try to push people out of cohesion. So,
The one thing that I'm kind of unclear on, and maybe I missed it, so if you're out there listening and these two guys didn't see it, please let us know, get on our Facebook and on our Twitter, let me know I'm an idiot.
Yeah, most of us have just read through this maybe once, so we're trying to reference as we go, but I'm sure we're going to mess some stuff up.
The one thing, when you start talking about displacement and reestablishing cohesion and things like that, and maybe it was in a really, and I just missed it, there's no listing in there of what happens if you can't put them in displacement. Like, it shows in there, like, if I put my guy all the way around this wall, but he couldn't make a speed 1 move to get there, you can't put him there. But if there's no legal place for me to put somebody in displacement, what happens? Like, does the guy die? Like, it doesn't, I could not find anywhere that covered that. I couldn't find anywhere
on that.
Like with the T-47, if your ATST gets pivoted and it pivots off the board and you can't make a move to get back on the board, are you dead? What happens?
Yeah, because in other games they can destroy
I didn't see that. In X-Wing, if like the smallest sliver of your base goes off the mat, you're dead. That's it.
No, that's the same in this.
Is it the same in this? Okay, yeah. And maybe I just missed it, but I didn't see
I think
that.
that's in the larger rules compendium.
Okay.
So there's a lot of extra info in there.
I didn't see anything in there about what happens if you cannot put a person in displacement or in cohesion.
That's got to be. It's so flexible, though. I can't imagine that's going to be too much of a problem. So maybe we're just making more of a mountain out of that than it might be. Again, hey, how about we get some reps in with the game and then see how it plays out if it's going to come up. I'm sure it probably will. In infinite amount of monkeys with typewriters kind of scenario.
But especially in a game where you expect to have some competitive play involved, you're going to get some rules lawyers out there, and you want to make sure that somebody, whoever the TO is going to make sure that they know the letter of the law.
And I think you're going to see a lot of that with a lot of the learn to play stuff that's going to come out after March 8th. Because FFG, they've still got their ear to the floor and they're going to be listening to feedback and stuff like that. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a companion FAQ that comes out with the full release that kind of starts clarifying a lot of these things. They're saying, hey, we did this on this board and we couldn't do this. Help.
Yeah.
And props to FFG. They've been very, very responsive. Alex Davey, in particular, has been very responsive to rules questions just since this came out on Monday.
That's awesome.
A lot of folks had questions like, okay, if I have 5 stormtroopers with impact grenades, since keywords are cumulative, is this attack now impact 5 if they all throw them? And somebody's like, no, it can't be because it's only 5 points.
And
that's
to be
really
fair,
cheap.
I was with that. I was like, no,
Yeah.
it's only going to give you an impact 1, period. But
Somebody emailed Alex Davey and said,
Yeah.
hey, help. And he said, yep, it's impact 5. So, and a lot of people are like, I don't like that, But to me, if you're going to go and close assault a unit of stormtroopers on an armored unit, trying to chuck grenades
You
within range
deserve
1,
that, yes.
you're going to get stomped all over. So, good luck with that. It's bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it works out for him.
it's a nice kind of 5-point upgrade that gives you a little bit of flexibility. I don't know if it's going to be your primary battle plan, hopefully, because getting your guys up the board to that range, and then you're not going to get the most out of probably because you've got your 2 actions. You're probably moving up, throwing your grenade, so you're not getting your precise keyword because you don't have aim tokens unless you're getting from something else. All these different things can affect that, how effective it's going to be on the field.
It does make a nice little range 1 punch, though, because instead of throwing 5 white, you're throwing 5 black. The black dice are better, so
They definitely are.
It is an offensive upgrade. It's just, man, whew.
But is it
Good luck getting there.
Yeah, is it going to be your primary offensive, mode of attack? Is the question.
Yeah.
So with FFG, they're responding quickly to inquiries and things like that. I think that really is going to help benefit the community going forward because
Absolutely.
having a game maker that actually is proactive in their response to things.
Yes.
It's something that GW is just learning now, and for a long time was one of their biggest hindrances. You want to know that people are taking advantage of social media and actually getting out there and putting out, what the official ruling is supposed to be.
Yeah, and FFG's really good with that. That's one thing that they did in X-Wing too. They're not going to sit there and every developer is not going to sit there and answer every single little minutia question. But if there's something that's like a no kidding meta help kind of thing, because everybody's flying this, and it's either abusive or overpowered or something like that, the developers will come in and say, well, here's the deal. Which is good. I mean, that's a healthy thing for a game, I think.
You should never have to have a rules as written versus rules as intended argument for too long. If there's a serious, question about how the rule was actually intended, I feel like that should be something that should be addressed as soon as possible. So hopefully, they continue that good line of communication going forward.
Well, back to the original premise. I got to say, one of the things that really caught me off guard, and I think a lot of people were doing this wrong, was the defining the battlefield section with the cards.
That's something that's completely new to Star Wars Legion that we haven't seen really.
I can't think of
game.
another game that's done something like this. Not that I've played them all, but just having the different for those that have the guide in front of them, it's the defining the battlefield call out on page 6. But basically, you've got your stacks of cards. You build them up, and I think there's like 4 cards for each. There's objective, deployment, and conditions. And you lay them out after you shuffle in. You lay the top 3 out from left to right. So you've got your objective in the top row, followed by your deployment, and then conditions. So the fact that there are extra cards that aren't going to be used in every game means that the games are going to have a lot more variety with them, with whatever the objective might be. So planning around those kind of things is going to be probably encourage players to have a more balanced list instead of counting on, okay, this is going to be, I'm not going to have shooting during the first range, so I'm going to pick the heavy battlefield fog or whatever effect it is, so I can get my melee guys up there when my Wookiee warriors hit the table or something. But the cool part is that you then act to go through like a band, like a rotating band between the other players. So you pick one of the cards like, I don't want to do that one. And it can be from any of the 3 fields. But basically, after you get 2 picks for disqualifying battlefield conditions, you pick the leftmost card, and that informs you how you build your board.
I love that. Like, adding that layer of strategy, especially from an organized play perspective, because in organized play, you're playing your opponent. just as much as you're, moving things around. It's knowing your opponent, and especially in the local scene, it's knowing, okay, this guy, he really likes this kind of a deployment, so that goes away right now. I think that's great, and I think that adds in that turn zero layer of strategy to this game that I think there's a lot of other games that are just really missing. And adding to that, a game like 40K, you play 40K and you show up and you get your opponent and there's the board and there's the buildings that are already out there. All of the terrain is off to the side when you start this game. That's awesome. I love that. That competitively, I'm going to place, okay, we've got our conditions. Now we're going to define the battlefield, and here's where things actually go. And I get 3 obstacles, or however many it is, and you get 3 obstacles, and we're going to place it to define a battlefield, and then we deploy based off of that. I love everything about that. And that's one of the things I think FFG really gets right in its games.
Yeah, no, they definitely give you the leeway to have a nice, tight tournament experience. But you don't always have to follow that. Like, if you've got a friendly game, John, I know you like playing, so you can set up something. This is Mos Eisley. This is how the buildings would be set up. We're going to build from there.
Sure, and you can do scenarios and things as well. If you've got, say, the Jawa's sail barge, you could, or
Java's.
Not Jawa's.
The Jawa sail barge would be something. Would it be a crawler with like fins?
It would be a lot smaller, I would imagine. But yeah, if you've got Jabba's sail barge, I saw this absolutely beautiful 4-foot long one that they're making. It's like $500, but imagine doing like a scenario where you've got that and one end of the table, and maybe you have to assault Jabba's sail barge or something. You can have things that aren't necessarily randomly set up. But I think it still adds a lot to the gameplay.
Like I think a lot of people in the Facebook group for Legion saw there's a gentleman that's making like a Forest Moon scenario pack. It looks really cool.
Some of the fan-made scenarios and condition cards are really cool.
And it's only going to get better.
Yeah, the fact that there's fan-made content already is just awesome. It's like, this is so great.
Yeah, a lot of people excited.
Yeah, one thing I really like about the defining the battlefield concept, with 40K at least, because that's where I have the most frame of reference, you can have your entire army list almost negated by a bad scenario, and it's all random. Just a D6 roll, and say you've got an army where you run a lot of multiple small units. If it's something where you get kill points for losing each individual unit, all of a sudden, well, you're at a huge disadvantage, and you're probably going to lose. Now, granted, if you're a good, part of being a good war gamer is being able to overcome, adversity on the battlefield, but having that strategic element in actually setting the game up itself, I think it adds a little bit more to the skill. Yeah,
and it just makes you add a little bit more care to how you're going to build your lists. If you know what's in the deck and know what kind of objectives you might be up against, that's going to impact, like what I've been building so far, just with no frame of reference. I'm like, 3 units of stormtroopers, that's all I need, and then we're going to do this. Okay, there's 5 objectives to secure. Maybe 3 units of infantry is not going to be enough here, So once we start seeing all of those cards, I think you're going to see a big, everybody's theory crafting their lists right now. I think you're going to see a big shift based off of once people get their hands on the objective cards and can see what you've got to build for. Maybe it's 6 units of stormtroopers. That might be your army with Darth Vader and maybe a section of speeder bikes.
Yeah, now that we have the rules, pretty well flushed out, it changes, I think, how a lot of people were looking at building their army lists too, because we knew that objectives were going to play a big part and troops, but yeah, it seems like having troops is a little bit more important now. If you can throw 2 ATSTs out there feasibly in an 800-point game and still make a usable playlist, but is it really going to be advantageous to you?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, especially in light of that Impact 5, it's a 5-point upgrade on a squad. That's almost an auto include now. To me, that's I'm not even questioning whether it's concussion grenades or impact grenades. It's going to be impact grenades.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just because it's 5 points and you get a range 1 punch with black dice. Okay, let's do it.
And I think one other thing that one other rule clarification that we've got that makes the core troops even more powerful is the attack dice pooling, right?
Oh yeah, no. There's a lot of people that were concerned about this. I know that this was part of the discussion, and people kind of came down into 2 camps. It's basically so we like to use the rocket launcher. That's one of the big flashy unit upgrades. It gives you Impact 3 for an upgrade. people are like, okay, well, why is my E11 benefiting from these keywords? Why am I getting impact on an E11? That doesn't make any sense. Because what's happening as you create your attack pool, all of those weapons in the attack pool share the keywords. So you've got 5 E11 shots, you've got 3 rocket launcher shots. You can modify the regular hits into crits up to 3, up to the impact of that weapon. So let's say your black dice just completely blank out, and, well, you got 3 hits on your E11s. Now they're upgraded to crits. People are like, well, that's not realistic. Other people are saying, hey, they're just streamlining the game. They're making it simple. One of the big things to keep in mind, though, is that if you split your pool of fire, you do not share those keywords. Only the keywords that are in that pool. So let's say I've got my E11s shooting at some rebels, some troops, and the other ones are doing the rocket launchers going after an ATRT. Those E11s lose the access to those impact. Not that you really need them for the rebel troops, but if you split your pool up, you only get the keywords in that pool.
I'm kind of two minds of this because I agree with the premise, at least the basic theory, that it's kind of cheesy to give lasers the armor piercing. I don't think it's that much of a streamlining thing to throw one attack pool and just say, okay, I can only apply that impact to these dice here. But I do get it where it is a streamlined thing, because what you might end up doing then is you've got, okay, well, I'm going to throw 3 black dice and we're going to resolve that attack, and then kind of the way they do it in 40K. It's like you resolve all weapons separately. That's just going to take forever.
It takes a long time.
But where I also see it streamlining is on like weapons types. And somebody put this example up on Reddit, and I thought it was really good. If you're shooting the main armament of an ATST and then the anti-personnel laser cannon on an ATST, the main armament is 2 red, 2 black, 2 white, impact 3, I think. And then the laser cannon is 1 red, 1 black, 1 white, impact 1. Okay, 3 red, 3 black, 3 white, impact 4, do it. It's like weapons types. They're both laser weapons, they both are armor piercing. It makes more sense. I was really against it the first time I saw it. When I saw it in some of the leaked photos, I was like, I don't like this.
I think
I've come around to it.
Yeah, I think they kind of have to do it that way because we see disparity right now with, let's say you've got your rocket launcher, and then you actually are throwing the same dice with the unit. They happen to be black dice as well. They've got like concussion blasters or some crap. So if you have to keep separating the dice pool, it slows down, like in 40K, like John was talking about. Additionally, the cost of the upgrades of these weapons is so... you're basically paying for another unit of troops if you're doing the rocket launcher upgrade. It's a 6-turn game. If you miss with those 3 black dice, that's going to hurt a lot.
Well, in addition to that, you also have a reload for the rocket launcher. You have a turn you have to spend to reload.
You only get 3 shots with the rocket launcher, assuming you get to shoot it on turn 1. If you don't shoot it on turn 1 because you've got to reload it, you're only getting 2 shots because you're reloading on turn 6.
Well, you could theoretically launch it every turn up to 6 because you just
if you're in place, it's reload and then shoot,
exactly.
reload, shoot, reload,
if you're not
shoot.
moving.
Sure.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit last episode, but because it really does change how you play those units with what upgrades they have on them.
I think it's a good balance because it makes the weapon worth taking without making it a must take.
Yeah.
So I mean, like anybody who's played 40K knows, whenever you put 1 las cannon in a tactical squad, it's gonna miss.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
You pay all those points.
All the time.
That last cannon will not hit, regardless of how much you need it to hit. It will not hit. So the same concept with the rocket launcher. Yeah, it might miss, and that feels bad. But you know that it's going to at least make the rest of the unit more effective in taking down that target.
It kind of allows you to say, well, actually, it was this dice that I rolled for the rocket launcher, and it actually did hit. It turns out. So,
and I think, like you said, it changes the mechanic of split fire. It makes it more conditional and less of a every single time you need to split fire. So I think that's one thing that's going to change. I think it, like I was saying before, I think it makes the core troops a lot more viable.
I'm definitely coming around on wanting to stack more core in there, especially again how fragile they are. So you're able to keep enough weight of bodies on the field to accomplish what you need to. Maybe having some basic troops just to run around and keep them cheap and, run them around the board doing the things you need.
And for me, that I think is, I don't know. I like playing with the more troops more than I like just playing hero Star Wars. I don't want to just have it to be Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker and everyone else is expendable, or having just your AT ST versus your Snowspeeder, the T-47. Yeah, I don't want just those elements being important. I want the troops on the boots on the ground to make a difference.
Yeah, I think we all want a much more tactical game. Yeah.
So one of the other things that kind of goes along with the troops is the suppression tokens. Now we got a little bit more clarity on the effect that suppression tokens are going to have on units.
Yes, I really like the suppression system. A lot of people were kind of freaking out early on when they're like, "Oh, well, you want to have your guys suppressed all the time because you get a cover 1 bonus even if you're not in cover." That's a huge benefit. However, the breaking point, so leadership is going to be, or your command is going to be a huge part of that. Luke Skywalker's got command 3. He passes it to his troops within range, so they become command 3 as well. 1 suppression token, you're getting cover 1 benefits. Is it double and then you're panicking? So if you go up to 6 tokens on your guys, there's a way to mitigate this, but there are also command cards, like Vader has one, that he puts like 3 tokens on everybody. And that can break them right there. If you hit that 3 threshold, you're also losing one of your actions. So that can be used defensively, offensively. There's definitely ways to game that system.
Yeah, it seems like suppression, initially looking at it before we got these, the hard rules in front of us, I didn't know how much suppression was going to make a difference, but it really seems like it's going to have a huge impact on how you play the game.
I do really like the fact that there's a rally step in there, that you don't have to spend an action to try and remove suppression, that there's a rally step in the activation phase that you roll some dice and you can take, that allows you the opportunity to pull suppression off. I like that a lot better.
And you also clear 1 just straight up in the end phase as well. So you don't have to worry about them just panicking and running off the board. There's ways to mitigate it, and Luke Skywalker has a way to pull suppression off of guys too. So it's kind of finding that sweet balance. You want to maybe have 1 on there so they're getting the benefits, but then there's guys like Vader who have infinite, so they're passing on infinite suppression to their guys. They don't care. The stormtroopers are going to keep soldiering on. Does that mean that they don't get the benefits of that cover 1?
I don't think so. I would assume that if you're not getting any of the negative effects of it, I could be wrong on that.
Yeah, I need to check that out. That's kind of curious. Just occurred to me, but.
Yeah, if we're reading that wrong and you're listening to us, go ahead and feel free to flame us on our Facebook page.
Inform us, correct us, not flame us. It's constructive feedback. That's what we like.
Community building.
Josh is growing up, man. Listen.
Man,
talking about constructive feedback.
Yeah, I haven't even mentioned how much I hate the command and control system in this game.
Oh, wait a minute. Thanks. One thing that shocked me in this, and I was completely reading it wrong, was basically, so you've got your unit of troops going back to them. You have your sergeant commander, whatever, the unit commander, and basically you use him for all your measuring, checking range, and all that. I assumed that that meant that basically all of your extra troops were just wound tokens. They didn't really matter for anything. What I didn't understand is that you actually still have to get line of sight from those troops for them to contribute to an attack pool.
Oh.
Yeah, so if you've got a guy hanging out that's completely blocked off, he's behind a wall while everybody else is out there doing their job, he does not get to contribute to the attack pool. So he's got to be able to see the defender unit to be able to throw his dice into the pool.
Now, any unit in there or just the sergeant?
So the sergeant is basically, you use him to check range. If the sergeant is in range of another unit, the unit gets to fire.
Okay. But if I have a guy behind cover that can only see 1 mini in the enemy unit, he can still fire. And
he can still fire. That's fine.
Okay.
As long as he can see 1 model in that defending unit, he can contribute his fire to it. If he can't see anybody, then you're losing his dice.
Now, if you can only see that 1 mini, and say you can shoot him with 5 different guys, and you get 3 hits, can you kill more than just that 1 mini?
No, it's just a really bad day for that one guy. Pretty much.
Is that right?
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, you can only kill minis that you have line of sight to. So if your entire unit's in cover except for one mini that's kind of poking out, and you push 3 hits through, dude got lit up. You got knocked out.
Yeah. Also interesting in that is trooper minis do not block line of sight at all. So if you've got a big cluster of guys and one of your guys is hanging out in the back, he ignores those people for drawing line of sight.
Okay.
But vehicles do block line of sight.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much you're going to be able to block line of sight entirely with the, chicken legs of the ATST or the ATRT.
That's true.
When the tanks finally hit the field.
Yeah, that'll be something big. And you could probably, depending on terrain and things like that, you could probably block line of sight with speeder bikes or the T-47.
One thing I got pretty excited about reading through the rulebook was, if you notice in a few places they'll say any troops or droids or jet bikes. So, I mean, if there wasn't any question before, we know they're going to be droids coming.
That's exciting. I love droids.
And tanks, too. It's a repulsor tanks.
I found the rule, by the way, Josh, that you were citing. So
okay.
During an attack, if line of sight to a mini in the defender is blocked from all minis in the attacker, the mini in the defender cannot suffer wounds. So, yeah, that one guy's going to have a bad day. But everybody else in the unit who is... I mean, if they're hiding behind a house, that makes sense that they couldn't get, like, the magic bullet or blaster bolt from around the corner.
Sucks to be Private Jones.
Yeah.
It makes it a little bit more complicated, but it adds some strategy as to, if you want to move a unit out, do you want to leave one guy back behind that building just so, if that unit gets shot up, you're not going to lose the whole unit? I mean, it adds a little.
Yeah, and then you get into the interesting promotion system that they have. So usually you remove wounds from the rest of the unit before you do the unit commander or sergeant. In that situation, though, you have to actually, if there's only one guy left and he wasn't eligible to be shot and he happens to not be the sergeant, you got promoted, son. So,
but I mean, there's really from what I've seen in the rules reference, there's really no disadvantage to nominating a new sergeant. No. Like it's just, okay, it's this guy now. There's really no...
There's no downside. I think it's just
aside from movement on the next turn, if you're planning on moving from the sergeant to here, well, now your movement point starts at a different location.
You just got to make sure you keep your red shirts out where they can be shot before the sergeant. So.
Well, it's just like the Army. Anybody can be an NCO, right?
The job's yours until you die or I find somebody better.
So I know with these rules changes and everything, first thing I did was download the Battle Scribe updates and went and checked out some of that stuff. Put a couple new lists together. Have you guys played around with Battle Scribe at all yet?
I haven't played around with anything list building wise, just because I've been too busy with trying to digest the rules.
Just
themselves.
Tabletop Admiral's got a nice web app that
they do.
I mess around with that when I'm looking up stuff.
By the way, if you haven't seen Tabletop Admiral, there's some threads on the FFG forums about it. Find it; it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's great.
They actually put the card pictures up, which is really nice to reference.
It's really cool.
And that's put together by a third party, right?
Yeah, it's just some dude just and I use dude
had that
gender.
moxie.
No, yeah. There's some person that's out there just doing it on his own. That's the great thing about the community is it's filling in all the holes all by themselves. So
and kudos to FFG for allowing that, I guess. Same thing kind of happened with 40K in 8th edition when that dropped. There was some privately owned. One individual guy put together a really nice army builder app website, and GW sent him a cease and desist pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to when all the alt art unit cards and acrylic tokens and stuff, when that all starts dropping. That's going to be really cool.
There's already a ton out there. I saw some really cool ones for like holographic objectives and markers and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, look really sweet.
But if you're looking for something for your mobile app, don't have time to go on the website. The Battle Scribe works really well with the new Star Wars rules, and I've messed around, put together a few lists here and there, just to hammer something out in 5 minutes. And they do have Leia Organa on there and General Veers, but it's not.
Obviously not all their cards, because we just don't know it. We know just like one of each of the command cards and then a couple of their upgrades, but yeah.
One thing that I saw in the rules, and you guys kind of touched on it when you said tanks and droids and stuff like that. It also had a reference in there to melee units.
Yeah, your Wookiee warriors.
Royal Guard, and Wookiees confirmed. Yeah. That's wave 3. Here we go. Yeah,
that'll be really cool to get some of the Royal Guard out there.
Oh, it's gonna be so much fun.
I think watching the new Last Jedi movie. Probably my favorite scene in the movie was the Royal Guard.
That was one of the best fights, period, for a Star Wars movie.
It really was, yeah. It would just, I mean, the cinematography of it and the fight scene itself was I think beautifully shot. Well, that about pretty much wraps it up for what we got here today. Anything else you guys want to go over?
No, I think I'm good.
I want to go back and reread this rule book because I know I've probably gotten stuff wrong. So,
and feel free to give us feedback. Check us out on our Facebook page, the Legion Outrider podcast. What's our Twitter handle?
So our Twitter handle is @Legion Outriders. If you're looking for us on Facebook, we're facebook.com/Legion Outriders. And we also have, you're also on Reddit as, I believe it is u/Legion Outriders. So yeah, we're out there. And we're more than happy to talk to you and engage. And we're fans just like you guys are. So.
All right, thanks a lot. See you next week.
You've been listening to the Legion Outriders podcast.
Only now, at the end, do you understand?
For more from the Outriders, make sure you like us on Twitter @Legion Outriders. Subscribe to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Legion Outriders, and make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast. Thanks for listening.
You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home.